With the Spider-Man set swinging on by in just under a month's time, we look at the 10 most meta-defining cards that will leap into action the moment they drop. Whoa. Yes, you might have seen this video before. This is because in my original upload, I made a couple of big errors which influenced the rating of some of the cards. Namely one where I rated Symbiote Spider-Man highly because I thought the whole card text would be copied and not just the exile effect, forgetting that Agatha's Soul Cauldron only applies to activated abilities. Completely my bad. This card and another one have been replaced in the list. If you want to see the newly evaluated cards, go to this timestamp up here. Otherwise, enjoy the video. But which card is so powerful that it warps the meta around it? And which one enables a combo that can cheat out every giant creature in your hand as early as turn 4? We're all breaking it down right here. Oh hey, it's Geb. Welcome back everyone, the name's Geb, and with the Spider-Man set dropping into standard in just under a month's time, I want to cover some cards that I think will make the biggest impact going into October. Before I do that, however, I do need to make a couple of disclaimers first. Firstly, there were some licensing issues between Wizards and Marvel, which have resulted in Wizards creating a Universes Within version of this set coming into MTG Arena and MTG Online on September the 23rd. These cards will be functionally identical to the Spider-Man set, but will have different names and different art. I'll be reviewing these cards as the Spider-Man version of the set, but just know that they'll be a little different when looking at them in Magic the Gathering Arena, for example. Second, whilst this is basically a top 10 list, I will also be organising these cards into B, A and S tiers, which I will go into more detail on what each tier means as I go through the cards. But just because a card is in the B tier doesn't mean that the card is bad. All of these cards are good, it's just relative to the list. And lastly, this is just my take on the set. Don't take this as gospel. Magic is a very complex game, and if you disagree with any of my opinions, do let me know in the comments below. Now, with that all out of the way, let's get right into it. Starting with the B tier, this tier represents cards which don't create decks all by themselves, but are good enough to enhance already existing decks, or are cards which raise the overall power level of the meta indirectly, either through their efficiency or their flexibility. First off, we have Spider-Ham, Peter Porker. For 1 and a green, for a 2/2, it reads, whenever Spider-Ham, enters, create a food token, which is cute, but the main part that caught my eye was Animal Mayhem. Other spiders, boars, bats, bears, birds, cats, dogs, frogs, jackals, lizards, mice, otters, rabbits, raccoons, rats, squirrels, turtles, and wolves you control gain +1/+1. While this card isn't super powerful on its own, it will be able to fit nicely into the Celestia Rabbits deck because of the really flexible Anthem effect, which also includes rabbits. Despite not being a rabbit himself, he could give the deck some flexibility into other animal-like cards. Next, we have Spider-Punk. But this 2/1 for a 1 and a red reads Riot, your other spiders have Riot, spells and abilities can't be countered, damage can't be prevented. The last 2 lines in this card text are what really stand out to me. While a 2/1 with either haste or becoming a 3/2 isn't amazing on its own, the anti-control text at the bottom really helps any aggro deck with red, such as Boros Burn or Mono Red aggro, close out games against decks like Azorius Control, Esper Mill, and Dimir Midrange, but only so long as the card itself isn't countered on the cast. Now, let's move on to some spectacular tactics. This card is a strict upgrade to Valorous Stance. For 1 mana, 1 white, it reads, choose 1. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, it gains hexproof until the end of turn, or destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. The main difference between this and Valorous Stance is that it gives the target hexproof rather than indestructible, meaning it can stop exile, bounce, or -X/-X spells, which are arguably more prevalent in the current meta that we're seeing right now. That with the 1/1 counter makes this a neat combo trick that sticks around as a permanent buff. As for mode 2, whilst we're not seeing that many big single creatures, it can be used to get rid of something like Dimir Battlecryer, something that white previously had some difficulty getting rid of outside of just straight up exiling via, Seam Rip, Sheltered by Ghosts, etc. So it's not a bad choice either. While not a groundbreaking card, I believe this will possibly see play in Mono White Life Gain as a way to protect a Giant's Pride Maintenance Channeler, or at least as an option in a sideboard through any deck that uses white. The last card I want to cover is Risky Research. For 2 mana and 1 black, it has Surveil 2, then draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life. Though relatively simple, this is essentially a Signed in Blood for 1 extra mana with a serious upside through Surveil. Since Surveil lets you basically filter cards, giving you not just card advantage, but also letting you dig up to 4 cards deep to find exactly what you need. While you might not see it in classic control decks as it's competing with Consult the Star Charts, you'll most likely see this in Reanimator decks, or decks like Orzhov Sacrifice, where fueling the graveyard is just the thing you need before using Zombify or Raise the Past to just bring them all back. Now, we get to the A tier cards. These cards are the ones I believe could give rise to a new deck archetype, either through this set alone or with a future set in the standard format. Their power level is high, but focused, making them linchpins, engines, or win conditions with their respective archetypes. The first archetype that I think will at least be tried out is Villains. Why not Spider Tribe, do you ask? Well, to be perfectly honest, there are only 7 spiders outside of the Spider-Man set, and nearly all of them are green. And quite a lot of synergies in the spider tribals are dependent on having other spiders. And not all of the spiders in the Spider-Man deck synergize with other spiders. So unless the set after the Avatar set introduces more spiders, I don't think this tribe will be seeing waves in the meta. But before we get to Villains, we'll cover the only transform hero that I think will see some experimentation. That being Peter Parker and the Amazing Spider-Man. This card reads, for 1 mana and 1 white, it is a 0/1, which when it enters, it creates a 2/1 spider token with reach. But we don't really care about this part. What we care about is the other side. For 1 mana and Bant, you can then transform into the Amazing Spider-Man, which is a 4/4 with Vigilance and Reach, and reads, each legendary spell you cast that has 1 or more colours has web-slinging for Bant. So the combo then is, you then bring out a green land with Llanowar Elves on turn 1, then Peter Parker on turn 2, hopefully with the 2nd or 3rd or 4th land being a planet on the field by then. You then transform him on turn 3 with the help of the elves. You can then station Spider-Man with the planet, and then web-sling out Ghalta Stampede Tyrant on turn 4, which then brings out all the other creatures that are in your hand. But this sounds all optimistic. How do you get to this combo? Well, since you're Bant, you can run cards like No More Lies, 3 Steps Ahead, and Spell Pierce for counterspells, alongside Consult the Star Charts and stock up for card draw. Not to mention, you have green in the deck. You can run Snakeskin Veil to protect Peter Parker with Hexproof. Now, is this a tier 1 combo? Maybe not on day 1. It is a bit of a glass cannon after all, but it's a powerful and exciting engine that will absolutely spawn its own dedicated Bant Web-Slinging Combo deck. The potential to cheat out mana is always dangerous, and this is a very cool build around for the future meta. Now, we get back to the villains. For the villains, we have 2 cards. First, Tombstone, and second, Doctor Octopus Master Planner. Both of these cards give rise to a recursive midrange Dimir Villains deck, with the former card, Tombstone Career Criminal, being a 3 mana 2/2 body, which reads, when Tombstone enters, return target villain card from your graveyard to your hand. Villain spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It is a low to the ground engine that gives you insane value and a little bit of mana cheating on the side, discounting the other graveyard loving villains such as Beetle Legacy Criminal, Scorpion Seething Striker, Venom Evil Unleash, Doc Ock Sinister Scientist, and then obviously the big payoff being the second card, with it being Doctor Octopus Master Planner, which is a 7 mana, though made 6 with Tombstone, 4/8 body with other villains you control gain +2/+2. Your maximum hand size is 8, with the big one being, at the beginning of your end step, if you have fewer than 8 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. With the amount of combat tricks you will have from the other villains' graveyard abilities, and Dimir's access to premium removal, I can see this being a deck that will grind other mid-range decks into the dust. The only thing this deck will be vulnerable to is Exile, though this is only represented en masse with either Jeskai artifacts and Azorius control. Now, before we get into the S tier cards, I do want to give a bit of an honourable mention, because, honestly, I'm not too sure with this particular card due to the rules change that WotC did for the Final Fantasy set. And that card being Web Up. This card is basically Banishing Light with a different name. Back before Universes Beyond cards names were interchangeable, meaning in this example you couldn't have 4 copies of Banishing Light and 4 copies of Web Up, with the change coming in the Final Fantasy set that all Universes Beyond cards are now legal in standard going forward, both of these can be played for however many copies you needed, meaning you can have up to 8 Banishing Light effect cards in the deck, which, for that amount of mana being completely unconditional, is an unprecedented amount. Add to that the Universes Within version is coming to digital platforms, and honestly, I'm at a bit of a loss here. Let me know in the comments what you think about this card. And now with the honourable mention out of the way, finally, we get to the S tier cards. These, I think, are there's going to be 2 cards in this set, and I think these are the 2 big cards that I think will warp the meta in near universal ways. Though one of them might be not what you immediately thought of. But first, the elephant in the room, the Soul Stone. Everybody's been talking about it. It's a legendary artifact for 2 mana with indestructible, which reads, tap for 1 black, and then for 6 and a black, exile target creature you control, harness the Soul Stone. Once harnessed at the beginning of your upkeep, it returns a target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. This card, hands down, is going to be absolutely busted. It can create unbeatable game states with its harness ability, it fits into all but the most aggressive decks that have black in them, and the opportunity cost is minimal because it also taps for a black mana. Even when not harnessed, it's still a black mana rock. This will warp deck construction around the need for artifact exiling, or failing that, the need for graveyard hate. I fear that the only decks that will keep this deck in check are VV Cauldron decks, as that has built-in graveyard hate anyways through Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and the heavy control decks that feature white for the exile. Top and bottom of it, you either play it, you play a deck which has answers for it, or you just lose to it. It's that straightforward. And now for the lesser known card, that being Universal Passage. This is a land that, when enters, you choose a basic land type, you can then pay 2 life if you want to. If you don't, it enters tapped, and this land then becomes that chosen type. Now, that may look boring, and you're right, this is just a Fabled Passage which doesn't fetch a land, it just becomes that land. But the fact that it can come in untapped makes this card so powerful. This will be a universal staple in any deck that uses more than 2 colours, or hell, maybe even any deck that uses more than 1 colour, as it can perfectly enable powerful strategies to fire off on time with the untapped mana fixing. In short, whilst Universal Passage doesn't win the game by itself, it is the reason you are able to win the game, that reason being consistency. So, there you have it. From the flexible role players in B tier, to the archetype defining engines in A tier, all the way up to the format warping monsters in S tier. Love it or hate it, this set is going to shake up the meta in a huge way. But, what do you think? Did I overrate Doctor Octopus? Will the Bant combo idea work? Let me know in the comments. I do put a lot of research and effort into these videos, so if you like what you've seen, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Bye bye.